Hi, folks, and welcome to a More Civilized Age. I am here back again with the original host. Guys, it's so good to have you back. First off, who was on the last one with me, Chris Nelson. Chris, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be back.
I'm getting a little feedback. Oh, there it was again. Y'all hear that?
No. You guys hear it?
Yeah, I get just a touch of it.
Interesting.
Okay. That's okay. We'll find out who it is and remove them from this conversation. Kidding. Also, back from traveling the outback or the wilderness is Matthew, the Geeks Addict.
How's
Matthew,
it going?
how are you?
Glad to be back.
Yeah, I'm glad you made it safe through your Thanksgiving trek through the woods.
Yes, me too. I heard some coyotes out in the woods, and I thought, well, I'm here. Dinner's here. So time to turn around and get out of there.
And if anyone wants to know what I'm talking about, check out the Geeks Addict as he takes you on a wilderness trek. And even puts the camera, first person and lets you experience it with him as he's walking. It's almost like he has his hand on your shoulder and he's talking to you as he's walking you through the woods to put a gun to your head and blow up your brains in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
There's one. My favorite part is the Blair Witch Project moment where you go, man, I hope I'm not lost. That'd have been great if there'd have been the little stick witches hanging from the trees. You'd be going, oh my god, that'd have been great. I'd have loved that.
Out there by myself, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna go for a walk, and I just started walking. Vines got in my face, and I started, zigzagging, and I was like, wait a second, maybe I should follow the creek and get back to the house. So it was fun.
Nice.
Recognize him because he doesn't have his robe, but it is the one and only Ryan Kennel. Ryan, hello, how are you?
I'm doing great, Matt. I'm just glad. That I donated as much as I could to the Billboard Project, so you would let me back on your channel. That was really the reason I did it. So yeah, I'm glad that it's getting a good use, and I'm back. I'm back on.
You're back, but you never really left us because you were actually in spirit. You were there for the last one.
Nice. I heard that people enjoyed my.
You got a lot of good comments, sir.
Enjoyed those, so that's good. That's good. It's always good to hear positive feedback.
Never since Callum John's guest popped up on my Billboard fundraiser one night. Has it? Yeah, he came on. It was really wild. But he came on the Billboard fundraiser one night, and that was very pleasant. But having Ryan's answers, via email or via text was really impressive. But he's coming back with better answers, and folks, we got better questions. One of the things that I learned from, by the way, all the previous guests I had on More Civilized Age were fantastic. Not only that, but they came up with fantastic questions, and none of them were repetitive. I thought I'd had to be answering the same question over and over again. I didn't. In fact, they thought about new questions I never thought of before. I was like, these are great. And then I started thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't be the one always proposing the questions. Why not have my my co-hosts do it too? Chris and Ryan. We left Matthew out because we don't like him, but we'll let him ask one next time around. But these are all excellent questions, and the first one is posed by Chris. Chris, why don't you go ahead and ask your question? And then, Chris, I'll let you pick who's answering it first.
Oh, okay, great. It is, I think, broadly, what is the best year for Star Wars?
Best year for Star Wars?
Not in universe year, like not 25,000 BBY or something, but like what's the best year creatively for Star
us?
Wars? Matthew. You're back from that back.
Now, Matthew said he's also going to guess.
Yeah, that's why I
ours as well. So, Matthew, you will go first, and then okay. Go ahead.
So my guess for the overall answer would be 1997. That's my guess, but I'm going to move on. You guys can answer. And I say that. You want me to say why I believe that?
I have an idea, but go ahead.
We've got.
Now, is this your answer?
No. I'll move on to mine, and then I'll just agree.
Get your answer, and then tell us why you think 97.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I think 1996 for Star Wars overall. I'm sorry, 1997 is my answer because the special edition came out. A New Hope. We have The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and that was my first experience with Star Wars. My dad took me to the theater. I was 12 years old in 97, so I got to see all Star Wars for the first time in theaters. They were the special editions. That was cool because I didn't know what the original trilogy looked like. So nothing bothered me. And I loved it. I was blown away by it. The effects, the music. That was actually one of the first CDs that I was able to buy too, was A New Hope. And I love it. I still have it. It's got the little booklet. CDs are real shiny, look like the Death Star. It's awesome. But yeah, 1997 is definitely my answer. I got all the toys. I got the video game, Shadows of the Empire. It was a great year that year.
All right. So that is the gauntlet he's thrown down. Who else picked 97? Oh! Now, I'm going to tell you something, Matthew. That is an awesome guess.
I made a mistake. I wrote down the wrong number here. 1996 was what I thought everybody else was going to say.
Oh, you thought 96?
Yes.
Okay. Who says 96?
Wow.
Okay. Wow. That's okay. But you know what? You have a right, because I'll be honest, that year that you're talking about, it would be number 2 for me. It was a great year for Star Wars, in my opinion, but not the best. So, Chris, did you answer? Bring last. Ryan, go ahead and answer.
All right, so I think mine is going to be a little strange, I think. And it's not just about what was released then, but it's also kind of when I found it, and that's going to be 2002. And so that is, the year Attack of the Clones came out, which isn't necessarily my favorite, but The Phantom Menace got me into Star Wars as a huge Star Wars fan, and I started reading the Jedi Apprentice books, and then my uncle gave me the Thrawn trilogy and the X-Wing series, and so I was really into those. In 2002, we had a lot of things. I found Star by Star in a Walmart, like some Walmart discount thing, and then I discovered all of the New Jedi, or like three quarters of the New Jedi Order books that had been published. So I bought basically all those and started reading that year. It wasn't quite finished yet. But then we also got Attack of the Clones. We also got Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast. And I'm almost positive that Bounty Hunter with Jango Fett was released around that same time as well, right around Attack of the Clones. So we got some of like my favorite things ever in Star Wars between those two games and my discovery of New Jedi Order, which I think sets a foundation for the rest of the EU post Return of the Jedi. So that's mine, and I don't think anybody else is probably going to guess that one because of Attack of the Clones. But 2000.
Wow!
Surprisingly, I saw that movie 5 times in theaters.
Holy cow!
I saw Attack of the Clones 6 times.
Okay, good.
In theaters.
I saw it twice, but I also, was in like 8th grade or something. So my parents
me too.
Me twice.
Yeah. Anyway,
again,
I think I was teaching 8th graders then. Yeah,
I was in 8. You said 18th grade, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't have been in 18th grade. Now that I think about it. Okay, so my year is 1999. Because say what?
That would be my second year.
That's your second year. The Star Wars fever was at its height, in my opinion, back then, because the prequels coming out, we were so excited. Any little sliver, we were like, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna be awesome!" The trailer hits. We're watching it 1 billion times before YouTube. You had to just wait for it to come on TV again, and they played it all the time. You were like, "What? Stop what you were doing and just watch it again." And if you could record it on your VCR, you just go back and watch it over and over again. VCR. And even though I didn't play it at the time, the Queen's Gambit, Star Wars The Queen's Gambit board game came out. The best Star Wars board game they have ever made. And it's fantastic. I wish I would have known about it back in 1999, but it came out that same year. But other things that were exciting was because, and I think everyone knows this, New Jedi Order started in 1999. We had the death of Chewbacca. Something that just like, you're like, they would never do this. Something that epic happened in the expanded universe. And it was the start of something that would go on for years, a war that we would be reading about. And it started in 1999. All this came together in 1 year. For me, it was like And like I said, 97 was second runner up for me. But 99, it just hit full throttle. And we had new movies in theaters. We had everyone getting excited about Expanded Universe. We had New Gen Order coming out, which was just like awesome. It just, in my mind, that was the pinnacle year for me. 3 years later, when, you know, Ryan would stop eating baby food and learning how to walk, he would pick 2002. But I, freshly out of college, picked 1999, baby, because I think Prince said it best. We're going to party like it's 1999. Somehow he knew that was going to be the best year for Star Wars.
Yeah. You know, I think you said Chewie dies. Thanks for the spoiler.
Oh, baloney.
I'm kidding.
Baloney.
I'm kidding.
Anyway, that was funny. Okay, Chris, what is the correct answer in your mind?
The correct answer, these are all really great answers. And actually mine also sort of focuses around that era, at least the prequel era, and it's 2005. I like your 99 answer though, Matt, because yeah, the excitement in the fandom was just unparalleled. It was really great. And I think that whole prequel era, so I mean, again, we had Star Wars back on the screen again, but we had other good EU stuff all around it. I think for me, 2005 is kind of a creative peak because it's the end of this original trilogy. There was excitement about that just the same. I mean, people were waiting a couple of years, how's this going to wrap up? What do we need? I mean, I went into that movie thinking, how on earth are they going to show the entire Clone Wars in one film, not knowing they were going to fill the gap a few years before it. But that actually relates to why 2005 matters to me, because you get a prequel and you get the wrap up of the Clone Wars Tartakovsky show. Not to mention that there's, you know, the Dark Lord trilogy, Dark Nest, they get started, Republic Commando, anything you want in the EU, they've got. But the combination of that film, that TV show, I mean, I think the TV show is the creative peak of the EU. So I kind of have to think that at least some period of time between 2002 and 2005, and because we get Revenge of the Sith, I'm going to say 2005 is like the best combo package.
This is so interesting, the years we picked. The youngest out of us picked the oldest year, and then we each picked a year that a prequel movie landed.
Yep.
If you would have told me, and by the way, folks, if you don't know this, but we don't even discuss the questions prior to this. I am blown away by this. Wow, what a great question. All right. So
I definitely thought you guys were going to be sometime in the 90s, since that was, you know, your glory days.
Well, I was 99.
See, yeah, I was thinking Shadows of the Empire. You had the video game. You had the sound.
And like I said, my second would be 97.
Yeah.
My second would be 97.
The Shadows of the Empire video game came out in 96. December.
Oh.
Yeah.
When did the movies come out? When did the re-release movies?
97.
Yeah.
Okay, 97 would be mine because that was the primer. We were priming the pump and reminding people that Star Wars was back.
Yep.
You know, so, all right. So, great question, Chris. All right, Ryan, your question.
All right. So my question is kind of focused on when you started to realize that there were other people involved in this whole expanded universe fandom, you know, because for me, at least, I found these books and I started reading and I was like, oh, this is awesome. Why haven't I heard about this before? Right. And so once I discovered that there's so many more people, when you got in the fandom, what surprised you about it? You know, whether it's good or bad or a little bit of both, you know, what surprised you about the expanded universe community?
And who would you like to start?
I want you to start, Matt.
Oh, okay. When I found out about it, I was big into the StarWars.com chat rooms. I was huge into those. Those chat rooms, you got to talk to Leland Chee. You got to talk to Stoney. You got to talk to the Steven Sansweet. You got to talk to all the bigwigs in a way, and plus other fans too. And it was so exciting. It was so much fun. I don't think a day went by when I was not on those forums. I don't think a day went by. I was constantly checking the forums, new threads, talking about this, talking about having my 2 cents here, 2 cents there, going back and forth. What did so-and-so say now? Oh, they're an idiot, you know. Biggest disappointment back in that time was I was shocked by the backlash against Kevin J. Anderson. I thought it was fantastic, and now I think I'm getting a more rounded idea of how people feel about him because there's not as much hate as I thought there was. Because when I'm doing my reviews of the Star Wars universe, I'm giving a lot of this ideas and my takes on these books, love or hate, that I gave on those forums. And I remember, man, blasphemy to talk against Karen Travis. Oh, blasphemy. But and then the same thing, vice versa. You talk good about Kevin J. Anderson. Who are you? And I did a little bit of the minority there because I used to, and I mean, now we laugh at this, but boy, back in the good old days when all we used to fight about was who was better, Karen Travis or Kevin J. Anderson. I mean, you kind of wish for those days again, right? It's like you never appreciate what you have until it's gone. And those forums being taken out of StarWars.com shortly after the takeover was probably the most soulless thing they took away from that. The whole website just lost interest to me overnight. Because I checked after our site's down, the forums are gone. I'm shocked. I'm looking for them. I'm writing emails. I'm saying, hey guys, I can't find y'all's forums. They got rid of them. And I was like, you deleted them all? And it was just like an end of an era for me. I was like, well, okay. And I don't think I've rarely, if ever, gone back to that website again. A website that I had to my favorites. I went every day to. But that was big, I guess, big fandom. You talk about getting into the fandom. It's a big fandom memory for me, and being shocked that people didn't like the same things I did or didn't hate the same things I did. And I'm honest because I know I think I'm still in the minority when it comes to Karen Travis's books, because I see a lot of people were putting that in their top 10, top 5 books of all time. Her Republic Commando books. Yeah. That's fine, but I can't have a Jedi falling in love with a clone trooper and having a baby. That feels like fan fiction to me. I can't accept that. I'm sorry. I just can't accept that would ever happen in any reality. I know it's fiction, right? But the thing is, though, that's just.
He lagged out for you guys too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on because I'm actually plugged into my router.
But you're back now. You're back now.
Yeah. No, but anyway, I paused because I saw it was gone. But I don't know what's going on. I'm plugged directly into the router, so this exact thing won't happen. So I don't know what's going on with internet in general. Must be slow. But anyway, I just remember just thinking, wow, people don't see things the same way I do. And then I thought that was so wrong. You should love Kevin J. Anderson, and that's the debates we'd have back in the day. And it seems simple now. You wish for those days. You beg for those days now. But yeah, I mean, I understand. I'm in the minority on a lot of these, but I know a lot of people like Matthew Stover's Shatterpoint. I didn't think it was good at all. But it's just me, and everyone's has a right to their own opinions too. It's blasphemy to talk bad about Zahn. When I would talk about Zahn's newest book being meh, I love Zahn, but I got lambasted on the forums. You never talk bad about Zahn. That was like the rule of Fight Club, was you never talk bad about Zahn, and rule number 2 was you never talk bad about Zahn. Broke those rules. So that would be it for me. Matthew, what about you?
Oh, can I ask you a question about what they said about the Crystal Star back in those days?
They said Waru for president.
Oh gosh!
Back in those days, no. Everyone understood that Crystal Star sucked.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
No, that was that. No one argued that point.
Right. Okay.
No one argued that point.
Yeah. So about the fandom, in 2005, whenever Revenge of the Sith came out, I was blown away by the crowds that would show up at the theater. I remember going to see this film, and the crowd was wrapped around the mall that me and my friends went to go see it at, and cars were driving by, honking their horns. People were chasing the cars with their lightsaber toys. It was crazy. But skipping back to the books, in 2014, when Disney bought Star Wars, that's when I found Death Troopers, became a huge fan, started dabbling in the YouTube, thinking, what am I going to do? I think I did like a knife review at first, and then I found Matt talking about Star Wars, and I was like, hey, this is brilliant. Maybe I'll do the same. And then you find these huge crowds. I never knew that the book fandom was as massive as it is. And that really does blow me away, that people just love to read these books. As someone who hated reading their entire life, to have picked it up and be addicted to it, yeah, it's amazing to me. That's all I've got for that.
I want to hop on what you said there, because YouTube for me was something else that I didn't think anyone was going to watch any of those videos, to be honest. I was doing it because I was doing like little board game and goofy board game videos because for my 35 subscribers, I didn't care. I was just doing videos. And I remember the first time someone mentioned me in one of their YouTube videos about the expanded universe, I was like, what? And I told my wife, I said, listen, she's like, how's he know your name? I said, I don't know. And I just didn't realize. I was like, well, here's someone else who likes the expand. And then here's other people. And then, now here's all of you who love the expanded universe too. About YouTube culture, it's phenomenal how many new people I've met through YouTube, actually all three of you, through YouTube, who have just as much love and zeal for the expanded universe as I did, where back in the day, even on the forums, those people, they're just words, and they were in all corners of the, world, and you never really got into, usually they were just debates on this or questions and analyzing this. We never really talked about what we loved and everything, and it just wasn't there in the forum. I mean, sometimes it was, but we didn't have these conversations like we're doing right now. So yeah, I would agree with you. That's another great thing about the fandom is YouTube.
And it's great that you get, there are these two canons now that where you get somebody that likes the new books. Then there's all of a sudden there's this book that's like, yeah, this is crappy, I'm going to give up on it. It's like, well, have you read anything in the expanded universe? And they're like, what's that? Boom, you're introduced to a whole new timeline. You're saved.
Oh yeah, the new canon has recruited so many EU fans.
Yeah, it really has. Yeah.
Go new canon.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right. So,
are you, Chris?
Yeah. It's true about the forums because I was in the same boat. And the funny thing was I never actually met anyone through the forums, right? These were just like disembodied voices online. And that's what's so interesting. Now I've actually, it sort of ironically took like Disney decanonizing to actually bring a fandom together, I'm going to narrow the question and sort of focus on sort of the movement within the fandom to continue Legends. And I think the thing that's really surprised me about it, because I was involved in minor ways even pre-2014 in sort of trying to drum up interest in keeping the old canon. There were movements online, various things going back to like 2008, asking Leland Shee, what's up with the Clone Wars? Why does it seem to sort of be breaking continuity? So there were slow little things, but they were hard. They weren't really coalescing. Again, it took Disney sort of doing what it did to kind of bring us all together. The thing that surprised me the most in 2014, early 2015 was the diversity of affinity for the EU among everyone in this movement to continue Legends. And what I mean is you'd see folks on forums or online or YouTube comments, what have you. And in one breath, there were folks who were just part of the general Star Wars fandom who almost out of an innate sense of justice, who weren't hardcore EU fans, but because they were Star Wars fans, they were to some degree EU fans. They just felt like they needed to join this fight. They felt it was critical that this old continuity was continued, because in the same breath as them saying, let's write letters, let's talk to Disney, let's talk to Lucasfilm, they'd also say, hey, I've got a free weekend, I want to read a new book. Does anyone think the Thrawn trilogy is worth reading? And you're like, of course, that's amazing. But what was so cool is you realize that up to that point, up to 2014, everyone who was a Star Wars fan was to some degree or another an EU fan, because whether you'd ever played a video game once or read one comic or seen a book, you were an EU fan. If you liked the prequels, you whether you knew it or not, were seeing bits of the EU that had been pulled in. And it was so neat to see, again, 2014, 2015, just like this explosion of articulated interest in it, because again, either out of innate sense of justice about what had happened to Star Wars, right, or just this awakening that people had that, oh my gosh, that one thing that I didn't realize I had to call EU, this is EU, and I want more of that. So it was neat. It was like, the thing about being on the forums back in the day was the more hardcore nerdy folks were there, right, wanting to dig into these sorts of questions. But the EU movement has been that it's very like populist. Actually, I mean, right? It's like, it's a reminder that like whether you played KOTOR once and that's all you care about, you're part of this, right? Whether you played the old like episode 1 racer in your arcade, you're an EU fan, right? You know what I mean? So that was my positive surprise, I think.
Nice. Yeah, and I guess for me, not having the forums, it really wasn't until I started joining like Facebook groups of people talking about stuff that I really experienced that. And mine's very similar to what you guys said. Was once I found these groups on Facebook and saw all these other people talking about it, it was awesome to see fans talking about, oh, who would win, Darth Bane or Darth Revan, versus battles or theories about who the greatest or who the most powerful, Jedi Master is and why, and, going through 80 replies about why or why not you think that Grand Master Luke was stronger than Anakin, things like that. Bringing all the lore from the books into your arguments, bringing quotes from Lucasfilm people into your arguments. It was so fun to get into that. And like you said, it was great back when those were the things that we were arguing about. And I guess kind of a little bit on the, on the negative side, too, negative surprises was the 2% of people or so who would take those things to the nth level and couldn't handle just someone like disagreeing with them about, how they felt about, Revan or something like that, and took it completely personal and went on a rampage across every different comment section that had been going that day to talk about it, and ended up having to be, banned or told, you can't, you got to hold back a little bit there. We're just talking about who you think's more powerful. So that's probably what I would say. The biggest surprise to me was there were so many other people that cared just as much or more than I did. And, I thought that I knew everything there was to know. And then I got, exposed to this whole new group of people that had so many different perspectives. And it's just awesome.
Oh, I remember the first celebration I ever went to, Star Wars Celebration. And I remember I called home and I was like, yeah, I thought I was a Star Wars fan, but these people, I'm like a total phony here. It was kind of funny. I was like, I got to up my game. It was so cool. I was like, oh my gosh. Cause I grew up thinking, sure, everyone's seen the films, but I'm the only one who's read these books. Right. Cause I don't know anyone else in my school reading them. I went to this thing. I'm like, I'm pathetic. I need to catch up.
I had the exact opposite response when I went to Dragon Con, and they had this kid who had won. He was the guru of the EU, is the competition they had that I missed out on. But this kid knows everything, and he got invited to a panel with the authors to kind of talk about this and that, and everyone was just wowed by his knowledge. And I was so excited to talk to him. Well, during it, they're asking him questions. And he's going, well, I don't really recall who she was married to, and I'm giving the answer. And then he does say something. He doesn't know the answer to that. I said, and I give him the answer to that one too. I was like, well, he just probably doesn't know that much. And so I went up to him. I said, man, I am so glad to meet you. I said, so you have read every EU that's out there, comic book, short story, children's novel. You've read it all, right? Because I'm about to say, I have too, just embrace him in this, brotherly hug. He goes, oh no, I mean, who has time to do all that? Yeah, that guy must be a real loser.
Me neither.
And I had, and Chris, with me, I had the feeling I was like, oh, maybe I'm going into a little too deep into this. Maybe I'm the crazy person. I was like, wait, so no one else has read all the West? Yeah, I was right too. I said, no one else has read the West End Games material cover to cover? What? When was the last time you read the Star Wars Dictionary cover to cover? No? The 3-volume? No? Okay.
Video game manuals.
Yeah, video game manuals. Whoop, whoop. I was like, oh, okay. So, I mean, not again, that's not to say I'm the best, but I'm just saying that I was like, oh, so they don't go that deep. And I was kind of embarrassed. I was like, oh, I didn't say anything. I was like, yeah, who has time for all that? A bunch of nerds to have time for that. And I walked away. My wife goes, why didn't you tell him? I said, I'm not talking to him. You see him diss me, insults me to my face.
So this guy doesn't know enough about the EU for me to talk about him.
I'm telling you, yeah. But the thing is about
what the panel was Dave Filoni, Matt.
So what?
I was going to say it.
Dave Filoni was on the panel.
I held back earlier.
Yeah, for real. No, I one of the things I love about the EU movement is that it keeps growing. I was just saying prior to us going live, I am having a splurge of people come on to my channel, brand new. I get the question once a week, maybe twice a week. And this week, it's just been, a few days into the week, and I've already had like 3 or 4 people tell me, they just found this channel. They're starting to reread the EU. They're rekindling, I'm rekindling their love for the books, or that they didn't even know there was this people out here who love the books just as much as we do. And they're like, oh, what is this expanded? And someone said, I'm now starting to read the Heir to Empire trilogy and stuff. I was like, dude, this is awesome. This is awesome. And it's bigger than it was the year before, and the year before that, and the year before that. And it keeps growing. It keeps growing exponentially. And to be honest, 2019, it probably grew, it exploded higher than it has the previous years.
Yes.
It's just gotten bigger and bigger, and there's just more and more people either finding out about the EU or rediscovering it. And it just blows my mind how many people just continue. Because I thought after a while, I think even Chris and I may have talked about this on a podcast, that the only time, we talked about it after the podcast was over, I remember. The time I get worried about the movement is when we slow down in traction. When everyone goes, okay, I'm done talking about the EU, and then people kind of get bored because the movies are still coming out, the new canon's coming out, and they're probably just going on, getting bored, going to other things, and we're not really growing anymore. We come, a lot of these little fan clubs become stalemate after a while, and they don't grow at all. They explode at the beginning and then don't go anywhere after a while. And I've seen that with YouTube channels too. YouTube channels used to be big, they used to get a lot of viewers, and now they still have those subscribers, and they have like 2 viewers on their videos. It's just, oh man, you just died out. You flamed out. And I thought that, is that going to happen? No. The expanded universe fandom, the movement is just getting bigger and bigger. And you see that case in point by the billboards again, that we funded that thing 2 billboards in less than half the time. Are you kidding me? And I need to ask Brian how many people was total, because I think it was almost the same amount, which is even more amazing. That means people gave more this time.
And it seems like based on that fundraiser you did, that live fundraiser, it seems like new people too, right? It wasn't just the same folks from before.
It was, in fact, some of our biggest supporters of the first one, who donated a lot, could not donate to this one, and we knew that going in. And I even talked about him on that live stream, that I knew he was watching. He's my friend. He doesn't have to apologize, Sean. He doesn't have to apologize. We hit him at the wrong time. He said he didn't see this coming. He didn't have the money. I said, dude, don't worry about it. We got this. And I told Brian, I said, we're going to get this. And I honestly, I was like, I want to do 1 month. I'm going for 1 month. And they're like, yeah, Matt, but 2 months. And I remember Amelia even talking about extending it to Giving Tuesday. December, she said we should extend it to Giving Tuesday because that's the last. And that should be the last day. We went, okay, yeah, that looks fine. We'll extend it to Giving Tuesday, and that'll be it. So originally it was supposed to wrap up on Giving Tuesday on December 3rd. And instead it wrapped up October 30th. And so all of the things that I had promised, like I said, I promised a t-shirt. Why? Because I didn't think I'd have to make one. I said 6 videos a week. Brian goes, can you do that? I went, you think we're going to fund in a month? It's 2 billboards. I told him, I said, we'll get close. I said, we'll get 4,000, I thought, and then we'll get the other 28 in November. And he goes, oh, yeah, I think so, too. And, of course, that one night, when it started going, we're texting back and forth, and I finally called him. It was like 2 a.m. by then. I was like, what just happened? And we're here talking about it, like, that was amazing. And then I said, oh, no. The next morning, I texted him. I went, 6 videos, because we had just made a joke. Before I got on, the goal was $330. I said, dude, we're going to do this. Well, we didn't start till way late because somebody was watching the World Series. Waiting for his wife to come home. Maybe a little bit of both. But I apologized to Brian. I said, this is way too late. He said, no, not for West Coast. I went, yeah, but we need to get everyone involved. I said, well, we're going to try to get 330. And then halfway through it, we had 200, 230. Then we got to 300, and then it just boom, 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 kept steamrolling down. It was awesome. It was awesome that fans got together on that. And I called him afterwards, and the next morning I woke up, I was like, oh no, that means 6 videos. Because I just talked to him beforehand. I said, dude, I'm just glad I don't have to do 6 videos a week. I said, I was talking, but I said, so I'm not hurt. I said, I do want us to get to 4,000 because that's what I told you we would be at. So that's the goal. And I said, but to be honest, I told you I wasn't going to do. I think I even said that. Brian has to double check me on this, but he has to fact check me on it. But I said, I told you I wouldn't have to do, because he said, Matt, can you do 6 videos? I went, do we have to worry about this? Yep.
There's, it's just like you said, we've seen I think that we've seen a huge growth in people that are interested in the expanded universe, whether they've been away from it for a while and are getting back in, or whether they've never read anything in their life before. We're seeing more people come to it. and it has a lot to do with what they're doing right now with Star Wars. I think that the more they create, obviously there's pretty positive feedback towards The Mandalorian right now in general. But as far as the movies go, the more they come out with stuff, the more they're going to push people towards the expanded universe. Because in a lot of people's opinions, especially over here, it's a better story. So you're seeing people who have this craving for good Star Wars, which is why the Mandalorian response is so overblown right now, because people are starving for good Star Wars content, and we have it over here, and people are getting into it.
Yeah, I think even to make a comment on that, Del Rey knows that. I was surprised by their tweet that they put out a couple of days ago. They said, trace the history of the Mandalorian warriors through Del Rey Star Wars history, and they showed a couple books. They had Republic Commando True Colors, Tales of the Bounty Hunters, Empire Strikes Back, and The Mandalorian Armor. I guess that's part of the Bounty Hunter Wars trilogy. I thought that was really cool. So they're still spreading out those books, showing other people, hey, look, there's history here. But too bad Kathleen Kennedy doesn't know about that.
Oh, yeah, they didn't have any source material.
Yeah, no source material. So
it doesn't exist.
The Mandalorian stuff without.
Well, remember, Aftermath was the first book we had that takes place after Return of the Jedi. Finally, the story we've been waiting for. What took place after Return of the Jedi? Never before told.
Yeah.
Isn't that how they advertised that book?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm pretty sure in 1991, and on the back cover of Heir to the Empire, it said the authorized continuation of the Star Wars saga. But maybe we forgot about that. That was a long time ago.
Oh well. Good question though, Ryan. Great question. Okay, finally we're going to wrap up with Chris, and Chris's question is one of my favorite questions. I can't wait to talk about it. Go, Chris. What's the question?
It's what's the best, or what's your favorite Star Wars soundtrack?
All right, who answers first, Chris?
Oh gosh, I'm glad that I get to choose, because the reason I wanted to ask this to folks is like I've got so many different thoughts on this, but I've never been able to finally decisively choose for myself. So I want to hear your thoughts. So Ryan, I want to hear from you.
Okay, so I think I may be stealing a lot of people's here, but definitely The Last Jedi. Sorry.
Yes.
I'm trying to subvert your expectations, guys. All right.
You are. If you hadn't have been here, that would have been your answer.
All right, Ruin Kindle.
There's a parody account called Ryan, spelled R-I-A-N, Kindle RK Outpost. So yeah. But I had a tough time. I went back and forth, but I settled on Revenge of the Sith. And I think mostly because it encompasses maybe a little bit of every other soundtrack that we'd heard from the original trilogy in the prequels. From the opening moment when there's the battle above Coruscant to, all the way to the end. Well, not quite the end, but when the Anakin versus Obi-Wan fight. And then we even get, when we get Darth Vader's theme when we see him for the first time. And that one, to me, it's so emotional because obviously what's going to happen. That with the first time you watch that movie, where it's going. And there's this big fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan. And that music is so powerful to me through that entire fight that it was going to be hard for me to go with anything but that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Matthew, what's yours?
Man, okay, this is really tough because
it is a tough question.
Like I said, one of my first CDs was like Alan Jackson, 1990 something CD, and then Star Wars. So, and I also played trombone in high school and junior high. So the classical thing, I was like, hey, I like classical stuff, especially movie scores. So this one's really, really hard because
you also play guitar.
I do, yes.
Yeah, 4 guitar. Yeah, we see. No, we see them. We see them.
There's more on the other wall over there.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
Bigger amps too.
Okay, you're hip. You're cool. We get it. Keep going.
No, but because I have a playlist and I have all of the Star Wars soundtracks except for the Shadows of the Empire soundtrack. It's on my wish list. I don't know why I haven't bought that one yet, but guess I'd have to make a Legends list for that one. But it's a toss-up between The Empire Strikes Back and The Phantom Menace. not just the one that was released that had the big spoiler of Qui-Gon's funeral, but there's an extended edition, and that was really hard to come by. They had it on iTunes, I believe, and then they took it away. Then years later, they put it back. But I was able to buy a hard copy on eBay, so I was happy about that. But Empire Strikes Back, and I'm going to have to say my favorite track from Empire Strikes Back is probably Han and Leia. That one, or the Asteroid Belt. They're just the Han and Leia. It's so romantic. It's freeing. It's powerful. It's I don't know. It's like they use that in a lot of the new trailers too, because they just know it's a gem. It's like the perfect music, and especially the last song in Empire Strikes Back, like the credits. I love how it keeps like playing that tune. So yeah, Empire Strikes Back is definitely mine.
That was going to be my runner-up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. So, Chris, an easier question for me would have been, which is my favorite girl out of my two twins? That would have been an easier question. I love the music from Star Wars. I love it to death. I agree with everything Ryan and Matthew just said. Ryan, I woke up. I had a CD alarm clock back in the day, and it would play the Anakin Obi-Wan. That's how I'd wake up every morning, to that, because I loved, what was the name of that song, by the way?
I think it was Anakin versus Obi-Wan or something.
Okay. I would wake up to that every morning.
I actually think it might have been
Battle of the Heroes.
That Battle of the Heroes, because it plays throughout the whole movie.
It's great. It is. I definitely agree with you. Empire Strikes Back has the Imperial March, which is, besides the title theme, is probably the most recognized soundtrack or the piece that in movie history. Everyone knows Jaws, and everyone knows the Imperial March. Everyone knows it. Even if you don't know Star Wars that much, you know the Imperial March from Star Wars. And you're right. Han and Leia's theme music is phenomenal in that. Mm-hmm. If you had a hard time picking between that and Phantom Menace, you are correct, because Duel of the Fates is brilliant. It's beautiful. That sound it has its own music video. To my knowledge, it's the only soundtrack by John Williams that has its own music video. Go ahead, Matthew.
Surprisingly, that's one of my least favorite tracks as well. Yeah.
Oh, see,
I don't know why.
That's the one. Literally, just that one makes me want to say Phantom Menace. Like just that one alone.
It's great, but the rest of the rest of the soundtrack's pretty good. And then you got to go into the other stuff. Now, A New Hope. If you would have picked A New Hope, you would have been correct, because, and I'm slightly swaying to New Hope because that's where we first heard our classic Star Wars theme title song, which is classic. Also, though, that Death Star run music. Oh man, I can't tell you how many. I remember when you used to make a mixtape, I took that soundtrack, that track off of the CD onto a mixtape back in the day. So you had tape decks and CD players. You had the either or back then. And on a mixtape, I had the Death Star run on there. I love that music. I love A New Hope. I think A New Hope is phenomenal. I'm floundering all over the place, but you go to episode 2, and that Anakin Padme love song is so wonderful, so beautiful. It's a shame that or Revenge of the Sith did not get an expanded edition, an uncut.
Oh, I know.
John Williams says it's out there, but I was like, John Williams says he's done with it. They just never wanted to print it, and that's a shame, because if you listen. And I listen a lot to the soundtracks while I'm watching the movies, actually, Chris. This is another reason why it's big for me. I listen to the music. I mean, I'm literally engaged in the music at the time and a lot of this stuff going on, because I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And the episode 2 soundtrack, my wife, if she saw episode 2, she doesn't remember. I don't think she did. But I told her when we had a wedding, of course, oh, by the way, my exit music was the ceremony on A New Hope. That was our exit music. Well, we were getting medals and walking off, except for Chewie. And but I told my wife, I said, this is what I wanted you to come in at. And I played the episode 2 soundtrack for her. She went, she said, that's wonderful. That's beautiful. Matt, you should have told me this. I would have done it. I said, you would have come in with that. She said, I love that music. Matt, I love this. She said, play it again. We played it. She's like, that's awesome. For her, it's probably episode 2 is her favorite soundtrack. But it's just so beautiful. And there's a lot of other good stuff with episode 2 too. But I need to move on. To Return of the Jedi, the Emperor's throne room is so ominous. And of course we have Leptic Neck. You know, Jabba the Hutt's band, I mean the Max Rebo band, which is just cool. It's just cool. You go with it. There is a lot of good. The Emperor's throne room though is just and then of course Luke and Vader fighting, the crescendo, the chorus, it's just so great. There's so many good things to talk about there. Of course, there's the ending, the Ewok ending in that one, which I love. I'll be honest with you, Matthew, you won't Shadows of the Empire soundtrack because you don't have it. It's the worst soundtrack.
I've listened to it. That's why I don't have it. I've heard the previews for it, but it's still, the complete.
I tried to like it. I still have it. I'm not getting rid of it. I'll listen to it every once in a while. It's forgettable. There's nothing memorable. And maybe that's because it doesn't have a movie to associate itself with. I don't know. Chris, my final answer. Locking it in. Chris, man, Matt,
you've mentioned everyone. Yeah,
I want to come back
because I want you to know that I honestly think that you cannot have a wrong answer here. There is no all of the above is what I want to pick. But if I have to pick one, it's the Ewok movie soundtracks by Peter Bernstein. I'm not even joking here. I listen to those all the time. Oh man, Ewok Adventures, Ewok's Battle for Endor. Do you have that CD, Matthew?
No, I didn't even know those were out.
Oh yeah, they came out with a CD with the Ewok movies music.
They came out originally, but they were re-released a few years ago. I think you can find them on eBay, Matthew.
Okay. Yeah, you can find it on eBay.
I know what I'm doing.
That's your favorite.
I listen to that. I've probably listened to those a lot. Yeah. But the thing is, though, I grew up watching those Ewok movies. My dad taped them on Betamax. And we watched them all the time, and I just loved them. And the music is just ingrained into me now. It's so good.
Nice.
So good.
I'm definitely going to be looking this up.
Yeah, I'm looking it up on eBay for you right now, and I can't find it. So
I have more stuff to say about the soundtracks too, but Chris, if you wanted to go first.
I know.
Yeah, Chris, give your answer. I'm sorry.
I feel like I could talk for another 45 minutes about this, and that kind of, just go down memory lane and talk. By the way, get the Shadows of the Empire soundtrack just for the liner notes, which have actually some EU content in them. So it's actually,
Mango Baobab.
Yeah, some background. So, but when I think about the soundtracks for Star Wars, and by the way, the other fun fact, the other deep cut is that it's not just Shadows of the Empire that's the other one, and the Ewoks and stuff, but like Republic Commando has an official soundtrack, Republic. So there's a ton of these things.
Yeah.
Even the Tartakovsky Clone Wars has a score that they never released, but that you can find on YouTube, which I believe it or not only found recently. People have curated that, which is great. Anyway, so when I think about the soundtracks, though, I kind of just skip past the original trilogy, partially because I just think they're all perfect. And for me, it's almost like what's more interesting is to talk about the newer stuff. And I believe it or not, I think the prequel music is on the whole better, even though the original trilogy it kind of sets the mold. I get that, but I don't know. There's something about the prequel that's more important to me or nostalgic for me. I'll sort of work backwards. For the longest time, I used to think Revenge of the Sith was the best, precisely, Ryan, for what you said, because the last track, it's like the roundup of every theme ever, right?
Yeah.
We used to listen to that over and over and over and over and over. And I used to think on the basis of that alone, it was the best, because it's actually my least favorite prequel film. It's the one I've seen the least, believe it or not, rewatched. But the soundtrack, though, is so much better. I love it. And that last track. But then I started to think, okay, there's got to be more, I got to think this thing a little more holistically. And I started to move to Attack of the Clones. I found myself going back to that a lot. Even though it's funny, you guys love the Padme love theme. I actually think there's something musically that doesn't quite work for me in it. I would want to I want Williams to go in and add something. I can't quite explain it. There's just something slightly off. But what I realized
is sorry, Chris. It's funny because it has some of the same jumps, like as far as like the notes go, some of the same intervals as the Han and Leia theme. So that I think that's why like it seems familiar to you in some spots, because it has those same feelings, those same jumps at a couple places.
That's a good point. That's a really good. I never actually thought about that.
But also Indiana Jones love theme in I think Raiders has a very similar one to that. John Williams.
Yes, yeah. I think I can even hear it in Superman, the original. There's some, not that theme, but it's like some Star Wars-y themes. Anyway, so Attack of the Clones used to be, then I used to think that was the best. But I realized that it was only because Attack of the Clones features so prominently in the Tartakovsky Clone Wars that I realized what I liked about the soundtrack was just the feelings I had for the Clone Wars show. So things like the Bounty Hunter Pursuit, and I mean, all of the music you hear was fresh when that show came out, so they kind of reincorporated that, right? So I started to think, well, maybe I don't like it, I just like it because of the Clone Wars. And I kind of keep, over the years I've been thinking about this, I keep coming back to Phantom Menace. And I actually think it's the thing, it's both the prequel and the soundtrack I've probably listened to and rewatched the most. For whatever reason, I can't explain why, maybe just nostalgia. But I remember, you talk about mixtapes, Matt, when Phantom Menace came out, a friend of mine bought the CD immediately, gave me a cassette. And back then my car didn't have a CD player. And I used to listen to that cassette over and over. I lived in LA. I had to drive, 20 miles, which there means about 3 hours one way, right? I listened to that over and over and over and over. And I think there's something really perfect about it. And I think that it's Phantom Menace, the event, episode 1, it's in some ways kind of a standalone adventure. It could be, right? It's just this fun, thing. They go and rescue Naboo or whatever. And it's like, there's something so neat, particularly given that it's kind of this earlier, kind of more innocent age in the Star Wars universe, right? In the context of those films, the music is just very it's knightly and adventurous, right? And it could be like a medieval movie and soundtrack about just knights fighting and saving people. And there's something really fun and positive like that about the set. It sets that really fun mood, and it takes me back to 1999. So I sort of feel like there's something innocent about the soundtrack. There was something innocent about the fandom at the time. You know what I mean? So all of these feelings kind of work in. The only thing I don't like about it musically is that once in a while there's little hints of the Imperial March theme that he works in, it particularly into Anakin's theme, which I think is so pretty and beautiful and innocent. And what I hate about that is it's like either Williams or Lucas, whoever sort of directed that, it's like they didn't let us just believe that Anakin was truly this nice boy who had a choice in his fate. Right? There's something subtle because of that little note he throws in there that's kind of like, oh yeah, that's right, he's just doomed. And I don't like it. I wish he could have kept it pure. I'll finally set myself up.
I think he did that because we all knew what was going to happen. Right. But still, no, I agree with that.
See, there's some. Can I talk about some more stuff with the soundtrack? Is that okay?
Yes. I don't see the talking stick in your hand, but go ahead.
Okay, sorry. See, I think with the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, the difference is like the original trilogy, it feels more wild. He's going from one place to the other real quick, and the prequel stuff feels more structured and tight. And there's like a huge difference when you listen to them. A lot of the that's the best I could describe it. The original trilogy just sounds so much more. I'm going from A to B to C to D, and we're going to figure out how we're going to get there. As to where he had it all written out perfect. I mean, no, he had it all written out in the original trilogy as well, but it's unpredictable.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and there's one thing that bothers me so much about the soundtracks, and I don't know if any of you have ever paid attention to it. The opening soundtrack score for every movie, the theme, is different. It's like that opening note. You can definitely hear the difference in A New Hope. That one to me is the perfect opener. Okay, and if you have all the soundtracks, you need to go back and listen to the opening notes of all the soundtracks. Okay, and I want you guys to hear it.
You're totally right. No,
Return of the Jedi. I do not know how that one was like. Okay, we'll keep that one. There's a trumpet that blasts, and it's so obnoxious. I can't. It makes me sick every time I listen to it. I'm like, dang it! Come on, guys. Why'd you let that one slip? It's so bad. But have you listened to the new movie soundtracks, Matt? You said you like to listen to all the music. No,
and that's the one thing that my buddy thought. He said, "Are you going to listen to Force Awakens the soundtrack since you love the soundtracks?" That was John Williams, wasn't it?
Yes, John Williams. He's doing all the trilogy.
And I said, no. He did Last Jedi too.
He did Last. He's going to do the saga
films.
There's one track that I do recommend from the new stuff, and it's from Rogue One. Jyn Erso and Hope. That is the Jyn Erso and Hope theme. It is freaking amazing. One of the most gorgeous Star Wars pieces that I've heard. And it's Michael Giacchino that does it. It's incredible.
But I will go back to Chris's point about the prequels soundtracks being better than the originals. That is a good argument. I can't disagree with that. I think the prequel music is so beautiful. I think the original trilogy has all the classic, what I would consider classic Star Wars tracks, but he just got better with the prequels. He just did it better. It's a lot smoother. I agree with everything you said.
It has so much to do, I think, Chris, with, like you said, he incorporates all of those themes that we're familiar with in the OT, the ones that like give us that feeling in what we're doing. So like for me, Revenge of the Sith is my favorite prequel movie. Got it sitting up there, right? I absolutely love it. But from the very beginning of the movie, which is one of my favorite opening scenes in Star Wars, they do the pan shot and you're like, oh, there's a ship above Coruscant. Okay. And then you get introduced to the battle and you see Anakin and Obi-Wan in their Jedi starfighters. Dun, 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 dun. It's just, it immediately puts you in the right space. And I just love.
It's funny. Is that the soundtrack where there's an electric guitar riff in it?
No, that's good.
Or was that episode 2?
That's Attack of the
Clones. Episode 2.
Yeah.
I had to go back and watch Attack of the Clones because I never heard this. I said, what? That's not in the movie. And I had to go back and listen to the movie again to make sure. I was like, oh, it is in the movie. I didn't catch it.
Yeah.
When even Grievous's song, the like, where they have like the French horns going, it's just like, I don't know. It's really iconic to me. Maybe it's just because of the grandeur. That was the first Star Wars movie where I was old enough to like go to a premiere and everything. So I stood in line for hours waiting for that movie, and maybe that's part of the reason that it like means so much to me.
Can you tell me what the French horns were doing again? I love you.
Yeah.
You're awesome.
So much of that movie for me, and I think it's one reason why I don't feel the need to go back and rewatch it. And it's just something weird about me. I'm not making this objective argument about it. It's just that I feel like its goal is to sort of just set a tone, right? I think about it. I think it's a very dark movie. It's a very sad movie in many ways, right? But I think the music, the soundtrack, which I love, I think does such a good job of creating those feelings for us. And so in some ways, it's sort of like I kind of skip the movie and I can just listen to the soundtrack. And so it's ironic. Like I don't rewatch the movie a lot, but I kind of like to go get that feeling I would get if I watched it, but I get it with the CD.
Yeah, one of my favorites from the Revenge of the Sith is Padme's Reminiscence. It just sounds so different compared to all the other Star Wars music that's out there.
This is great. When Chris posed this question, I was thinking we could do an entire episode on this.
Yeah.
I really do. I really, that's why we say this for last, because there's just a lot to talk about. And I almost kind of want us to do something where we listen to a soundtrack and then just analyze it. I mean, that's like a different show or something. But I mean, that's how much I really love the soundtracks from Star Wars.
Hey, I want to do something fun real quick. I have all the soundtracks on a playlist right here, including the new movies. Anybody want to guess how long this playlist would take to play through?
17 minutes.
11 hours.
Chris, you have something?
No, I can't even think.
Wait, are you saying just the themes, or are you saying all the soundtracks?
All the music from the entire Star Wars theatrical released movies.
Oh.
I've seen a playlist before that's around like 10 hours and 50 minutes, but I don't know if it's just the original 6 or not. So I'll stick with 11.
Okay.
Matt, I'm going to go with 23.
23 hours?
Yes.
Chris?
No.
15 hours and 49 minutes.
Dang.
252 songs total.
That's amazing.
Samsonite. I was so close.
It's a lot. That's a lot of songs.
Does that include solo and Rogue One?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And
I was counting those too.
And just to let you know, that doesn't include. That's the extended edition of the Phantom Menace. That's not the original soundtrack. It's
So
it would be different.
I win. I win by by both Price is Right rules and normal rules.
Yes, you do. You know what you get when you win, right?
The talking stick.
A new car.
I'm telling you what. All right, folks. So now we're going to wrap this up, and I'm going to have one last question. I'm just kidding. He didn't even realize he was gone. Okay.
I did.
Oh, okay. So he's just taking a sip like a boss. I have one final question to wrap this up. Just a fun question here. You're all Star Wars fans. You've been Star Wars fans for years. Your friends, your family, they know this. They don't know what to get you for Christmas, and so they get you some random, generic Star Wars junk, and you're like, thanks. Because I know you like Star Wars. So what was the oddest, or maybe oddest, or just like, really, Star Wars gift you got from a relative? I will go first. I got not one, but two in the same year, Star Wars Episode 1 shower curtains.
That's great.
It was depicting the Battle of Naboo.
Oh, I could just imagine Jar Jar and an 8-year-old Anakin Skywalker just like staring at you while you're taking a shower. That's
exactly. No, it was the Naboo fight, and I was like, thanks. Why? And I had them and I just left them at the apartments I would move to. When I moved to an apartment, I just left because I had an extra one. So I said the other one, is that mine? I said, yeah, that's yours. Always had a shower curtain. Star Wars Episode 1 shower curtain. Got plenty of those. I also had a Jar Jar toothbrush holder given to me during 1999, which would also, now that I think about it, maybe that wasn't the best year for Star Wars for me, because I got 2 shower curtains and a Jar Jar toothbrush holder. I said, what? Why? I kept it in my bathroom for a little bit, and then after a while I thought, okay, they're not probably checking it out anymore, so I threw it away. But those were the oddest things, the most worthless things I ever got from friends and family. I think those are all from friends, by the way.
Yeah.
So
I've got so mine wasn't really odd, but it was by far the worst. And it was, Christmas after Force Awakens. I'm still in the I don't know what stage of grief I was in at the time as far as the EU was concerned after 2014, but 2015 comes. I went and I decided to give Force Awakens a chance, right? Because I thought that was the right thing to do, even though I felt there's no way I was going to like it. I went in and I hated it, despised it, just pissed me off. I'm not going to get into that, but so it pissed me off. I hated it. And for Christmas, what do I get? I get like several shirts because people are like, you like Star Wars, right? And it's like Kylo Ren and Rey and all this Force Awakens crap. And I was just like, thanks. I don't like this Star Wars. So
you didn't like the Force Awakens? No,
I hated it.
What did you think of The Last Jedi? Okay, anyway.
Solid, yeah. like solid like a bowel movement. It's solid. Yeah.
So my Clone Wars review. So let me ask you this though, Ryan. I actually when they switched over to the new Disney Star Wars, I made it explicitly clear to all my family members and friends, I am done with I wasn't done with Star Wars. I was like, but I don't like Star Wars anymore. I don't like I want to make sure to avoid just that, what you just said.
It's hard because you open a present and you don't want to be disrespectful or like ungrateful, but you're like, yeah, and they don't know, right? You're like, well, I like Star Wars, but not this Star Wars. They're like, what do you mean?
Nerd.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, who's next?
Made for a good, just like one of those dusting rags that you use around to clean up crap around the house. So
there you go.
Who's next?
Mine's boring.
What is it?
I mean, no one really gives me Star Wars stuff. I mean, it's like Ghostbuster stuff.
Oh.
But I mean, a BB-8 mug. It's at my work. It's on my desk. Just sits there up on the bookshelf. Just a BB-8 mug.
I thought you were going to say it's the most useless thing you ever got because it just like tips over. because it's just a ball.
Just all right, it's a ball.
This is a terrible idea for a mug.
That's pretty funny.
All right, Chris.
I think the weirdest thing, just given my EU fandom, was the Tarkin book in 2014. I think for my birthday. I think those had just come out, and naturally, someone thought they would do me a solid and get me the latest book. And so, yeah, for folks who think that we're just like crazy EU purists or whatever, I haven't seen the new films. I don't follow the new stuff, but people might be surprised to know I own and have read Tarkin. So there are, two canons, right? That's what we're all.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
You cheated.
And
Wow.
actually, in a funny way, it actually inspired me because, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, but like I think the 3 or 4 books that came out in that wave, kind of because, and they're like, so I'm thinking like A New Dawn, Heir to the Jedi, and Lords of the Sith, and Tarkin. And the reason is, it's just part of my, in a weird way, it is part of my completist kind of mentality, where it's like, I know that by all means, they are not part of the EU continuity. I don't mix the canon, but they're kind of this funny footnote, right? Where it's like, because they were at one point promised to be part of the old canon, they're a footnote, right? So on the shelf, they're at the very end of the entire collection, right? It's like this postscript. It's like what could have been. So technically, yeah, I have that stuff. So what a shock.
Wait, so you're saying you support dual canon, Chris?
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, it's almost like I've been saying that for 5 years, right? Yeah.
Well, I thought that was a new idea, man. I never knew that before. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad people are finally catching up to things I said 7 years ago. It's about time. But anyway, well, thanks guys for joining. Appreciate it as always. It's been a lot of fun. Hey everyone, give us your answers in the comments below, and also have a Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yes, Merry Christmas.
Absolutely, Merry Christmas.
All right.